saucier of a Michelin 3-star in France. And I was so fucking miserable. It was one of the worst time periods of my life. I completely burned out. When you achieve something like that, I get this fear of losing. When I started this company, everybody thought I was gonna fail. I was actually surprisingly happy. Like, I had nothing, had a lot of sacrifice to kind of get this company off the ground. And it was just like, I loved what I was doing. I genuinely loved it. And I didn't have the same amount of fear. There were months when I couldn't pay my rent. My credit cards were maxed out. I was bootstrapping for a long time. But I didn't have anything to lose. And I was doing something that I really enjoyed. A very common thread was they thought that they were failures, that they weren't living up to their expectations because they're so kind of like type A, like I can do this, and they just see the gap between where they want to be and where they actually are.
You guys have created products that start with kind of that end result, that end feeling. Because for me, I'm chasing results, but I'm also chasing feelings along the way. Feeling good about what I'm doing versus just knowing that I'm doing is way more important.
Hi, I'm Dan Freed, the co-founder of Thesis. We make personalized nootropics to help everyone achieve their goals. Welcome to Ever Forward Radio.
As we're talking, and as this is going live, we're still pretty new in the new year, January 2024. Do you believe in resolutions? Do you have one? Where's your mind? Where's your resolution at right now?
So I don't have anything specific about New Year's, but it is a period where I get some time off. So
Wait, you get January off?
I don't get January off. January is our biggest month, but
Okay.
around Christmas is kind of this lull in between Black Friday and January. So for this year, I had the opportunity to go to Argentina and to do some hiking in Patagonia.
Wow.
And most of the year, it's just back to back nonstop. And especially right now, it's in between these two very intense periods. You have kind of like the Black Friday shopping period, and then you have January. So it gives me a little bit of time to take a step back and reflect. There's nothing particular about like making New Year's resolutions or anything like that, but I do some personal inventory, see how far I've come since the past year, what I really want to work on. I have more time to read. So, I was up in the mountains just reading. I always have this long reading list that
Yeah.
I very slowly make progress
Yeah.
on, and I read one of my favorite authors is Robert Sapolsky, and I was able to read his entire new book, and that just kind of like energizes me and has this great energy to start the new year. We're obviously in an intense period right now. I do I do a lot of experimenting. So this
Mm.
isn't particular to New Year's or anything like that. I'm constantly trying new things. So I do this with products. I'm trying a bunch of different health and wellness products. I try, everything from over the counter supplements to peptides to different types of um I did a stellate ganglion block a couple months
Oh wow. I was
ago.
just gonna ask, maybe what's something you've done recently that's a favorite or one that, wow, this is working for me.
It was an interesting experience, the stellate ganglion block. I got it here at Hudson Medical,
Okay.
and I thought they did an exceptional job with the procedure. I'm gonna go do another one.
Mm.
I think that it was so one of the confounding factors, I was recently diagnosed with Lyme disease.
Mm.
And at the time that I went for the stellate ganglion block was right when I began showing symptoms, and it was late stage disseminated Lyme disease.
Oh wow.
So I didn't know it at the time. And I think that some of the expectations I had for the procedure were to clear some of the symptoms of Lyme disease without knowing it was Lyme disease. And that's not really what it's meant for.
Mm.
So now that I just finished a long course of antibiotics, I'm going to go back and I'm going to try it with a completely clear mind and body.
Okay.
But that's just like a part of my nature. I'm
Yeah.
constantly challenging myself, trying different behavioral interventions, supplements, things like that to improve.
I'm hearing what I heard in there that I really love is reflection, maybe not resolution, or more reflection, less resolution.
Yeah, so around the January time period, I would say it's reflection. Throughout the year, I'm constantly in experimentation
Mm.
mode, and I'll try something, and it's perfectly normal for me to cycle through a lot of different, whether it's like a workout routine, a diet.
Yeah.
Um,
Fall in love with
I
something, let it go. Fall in love with something else, let it
exactly.
go.
I just love
Yeah.
experimenting, and that's always been a part of my personality.
A lot of people right now might be in the mentality of more. I want to create more this year. I want to have more abundance, have more money, have more better health. I want more. I need to do more, be more, act more, save more. Is more the right word you think right now? Is it like the right intention, but maybe not necessarily the right word? Is there danger in the concept of more?
I do think that there's danger. One of the most interesting things, and I had this insight a couple of years ago, I have a lot of friends that are incredibly successful. You know, they're investment bankers, they're consultants, they have these really aspirational lives. And when I would actually sit down with them, they a very common thread was they thought that they were failures, that they weren't living up to their expectations because they're so kind of like type A, like I can do this. And they just see the gap between where they want to be and where they actually are.
Mm.
Whereas everybody else around them looks at them as like this huge success story and aspirational.
Like, we wish we could be there, and they're like, I've never gotten there."
Yeah, they just see that gap.
Yeah.
You know, it's that classic insecure overachiever. And that's something that's kind of a new, I wasn't around those people growing up. I was kind of thrown into it when I went back to school.
Mm,
I ended up being surrounded by people who went to Ivy Leagues and just had this very different life path
mm.
that I did. Um, and it was something that was a little bit, I just couldn't wrap my head around it where I would look at these people and they were so incredibly successful on the outside, but they felt that they were failing and they were constantly, it was that more mentality. I just got to go to the gym more. I got to get more money. I have to get this promotion. And it was driving them to be miserable. And
It's that concept of I'll be happy when.
yeah,
It's always the when, right?
yeah.
It's
And
never now.
I do a lot of gratitude practices. I am very ambitious,
Mm.
but I try not to tie goals and outcomes to my peace of mind, my overall well-being.
How do you do that? Because I know a lot of people would love that, but it's harder said than done, right?
It's incredibly difficult. And I mean, there's a lot of different states. I think one of the things that has helped me a lot is complete failure. So I've just gone through so many, at the time, what I saw as like catastrophic failures where I just lose everything, have to start over. Um, and knowing that, you know, some of the happiest times in my life were in stages where on the outside my life appeared to be a failure.
Really?
Yeah, and the flip side is true, and this was a realization that was beat into me a few times where sometimes my life on the outside looked incredible and I had like achieved everything that I had set out to do, and I was so miserable on the inside.
Mm.
Some of really, you know, when I my previous career, I was a chef, and one of my goals was to be saucier of a Michelin three-star restaurant. I had worked for years to do that, and that is like the most technically challenging position in the culinary industry. And when I finally made that role, and it was, you know, I was saucier of a Michelin three-star in France, and I
Set the goal, achieved it.
exactly, and I was so fucking miserable. It was one of the worst time periods of my life. I completely burned out.
Mm.
So I lasted in that role, I don't know, 3 to 6 months, something like that, and I thought that I was gonna quit cooking forever. I bought a one-way ticket to Thailand. I was like, "I can't do this anymore." That's how miserable I was.
You set the most outlandish goal you could have for your career, achieved it, and then not only was it just not what you thought it was gonna be, it derailed you almost to the point of giving up your entire career?
Yeah. I was so mentally and physically sick at that point, and the other thing, this is what's interesting, and this is one of the things that I'm starting to struggle with more now, is when when you achieve something like that, I get this fear of losing. So
Mm.
I think that's one of the things, like, you know,
Mhm.
when I started this company, everybody thought I was gonna fail. And I was actually surprisingly happy. Like, I had nothing. I had a lot of sacrifice to kind of get this company off the ground. There were
So it's
financial.
only up from here, right?
Exactly. And it was just like I loved what I was
Yeah.
doing. I genuinely loved it. And I didn't have the same amount of fear,
Mm,
which is crazy. I had, I would say, more financial fear because there were months when I couldn't pay my rent. My credit cards were maxed out. I was bootstrapping for a long time. And that doesn't feel good. But I didn't have anything to lose.
mm.
And I was doing something that I really enjoyed. Now that I'm doing really well, there's that fear of like, what if something bad happens? And it's kind of counterintuitive because when you look at it,
Mhm,
I've had these
mhm.
crashes where I've lost everything and survived, and it's not the end of the world.
For a lot of people, I have to imagine, and I've definitely been there myself in my own version of rock bottom. When we're at that rock bottom, maybe it's because we had a catastrophic failure, our business went under, we lost our job, family circumstances, relationship ended. That feeling sucks. But there there's a small percentage of people that will look at that and go, it is only up from here. Versus, I think where a lot of people get stuck is the fear of even trying. It's almost like this sick, twisted comfort that we find in the discomfort, in the pain. If someone's there right now, they're at rock bottom, one of those horrible things just happened to them that I listed off. What worked for you and what could you pass back to them to create a fictitious light at the end of the tunnel if they don't see one just yet?
So I was actually having a conversation yesterday about this. I think that there's for me, I'm very fortunate that, as I said, I've hit rock bottom several times.
Mm,
The first time, it was not my choice. So I have ADHD. I've struggled in school for as long as I can remember. I was suspended, expelled, dropped out, and going through that process, I remember the pain when I was 16 and I failed out of high school. And like when you're that age, this is like the one path for you to have
mm,
a life.
mm.
And I ended up working minimum wage fast food jobs. And I watched my friends graduate high school and go off to college. And I didn't have a choice. It was no matter how hard I tried to succeed in that structured environment, I just couldn't do it. And I was so demoralized and in so much pain for so long that it taught me something. And it was just knowing that I could go to that place and survive. And I got lucky. I ended up becoming a chef. I saw how I could actually excel at something, and I wasn't stupid and I wasn't lazy. And
Your environment changed. And I think
my
that's crucial
environment
for a lot of
changed.
people to recognize.
Exactly. So
It's not
environment
you, it's environment.
environment has so much to
Mm,
do with everything. So like when I do these types of experiments, I'm always looking at how can I change my environment,
yeah.
because that's much.
Different container
Exactly.
yields different results, absolutely.
And it's also the role. So right now, my job, most days I sit at a computer.
Mm,
I'm not meant to do that. So my great grandparents never stepped foot in a classroom. Computers didn't exist. There was like
right.
that type of focus is so abnormal in the course of like the time scale of human evolution. For some people, they're able to adapt to this type of focus better than others. So
Mm,
my sister, she's a doctor, and I grew up with her. I saw, when she was 8, she would come home and she would sit down and she would just do her homework. And no matter how hard I tried, it wasn't motivation, it
mm,
wasn't
mhm.
intelligence. I just couldn't sit there and do it. I was bouncing off the walls. And I needed help. And that help for me comes in the form of nootropics now. For some people, it's medication. I also do a lot of behavioral interventions. I taught myself how to focus. I learned different tools, everything from meditation, dieting, workout routines, all of this stuff to really
Wow.
maximize that. But I strongly believe that without those core foundations, I wouldn't be able to sit at a computer all day. And being a chef, I didn't need that. I didn't need nootropics. I didn't need any of those healthy habits because it's a very different type of focus.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
I know that you talk a lot about multitasking.
Hmm.
Being a chef is like the ultimate multitasker.
So true. So true.
My brain is wired to do that. Like I would have 10 pots on the stove. I would have a board with 20 tickets,
Yeah.
and I can do that better than so many other people, and I could just manage that. And so that's where ADHD became my superpower, and where it held me back in the structured environment of the American educational system. In the kitchen environment, it propelled me
Mm.
forward.
So on that term of multitasking, I think a lot of people try to multitask, and outside looking in, we might to others look like we're good at it, but at least for me, I firmly believe for most people, multitasking is one of the biggest lies that we can tell ourselves. Unless you kind of like you do a hard examination of what really works for you and really in which environments do you thrive the most, and something like that I think is a great example of where someone can multitask and you're very aware of input equals output kind of thing. But for most people, that doesn't work. um, how can we really honestly examine multitasking in our life to see if it actually is creating more efficiency or productivity, or we're just trying to cram it into our life?
I think it depends on how you would define multitasking. And there's a lot of academic research on, task switching and focus. I think most people, when they say multitasking, it's, texting, working on something, watching something,
Mm.
and that's not really even multitasking. That's
That's
just
just
distraction.
multiple sensory input. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And so I told you I experiment with a lot of things. One of the most impactful things that I'm currently experimenting with is leaving my phone and my laptop at work.
Hmm. So like when you're done with work, it stays there when
It
you go
stays
home.
there. And so that's it. It takes this distraction away. It allows me to be present. So when I come home, my fiance is there. I get to spend time with her. I get to spend time with my dog. I can't tell you how good it feels to walk home in the middle of New York without there's nothing. Nobody can contact me.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
it's tough, and it took a lot of discipline because I'm somebody, I would go home and then I would be in emails and in Slack, and I always wanted to be present and available. But when I actually took a step back and I was like, how do I feel?
Hmm.
How's my sleep? What do I feel like when I wake up and I grab that phone immediately before I even get out of bed? And this just takes all of that away. And, I don't consider that multitasking. I consider it like stopping the noise.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the things that I didn't anticipate, I used to get this feeling in my chest, this kind of like almost like an anxious feeling sometimes. And I couldn't really pinpoint what was triggering it, what's doing it without my phone, without having, texts and emails, even if it's not negative. It just kind of like died down. My
Yeah.
brain was used to listening for this
Ooh.
little hit of dopamine or this impending disaster. And when I know that there's nothing coming, it was okay.
Yeah. And what happened by you not being as readily available as maybe you used to? Um, did the world end? Did your business go under? Did your relationship suffer? Or did you find a new way?
Exactly. Like this was counterintuitive. So like when I even just the thought, and I've tried to get a couple of my friends and a couple coworkers to try to do
Yeah.
this. And the first thing is like, what if something happens? What if somebody needs to get a hold of me and all of this? I can tell you, I I have a very demanding role, and I was somebody who was constantly in Slack trying to troubleshoot. Everything could wait. And if it can't
Mm-hmm.
wait, somebody will pick up the phone and they'll call my fiance and they'll get me on the phone.
Yeah.
If it's really genuinely urgent, and this is also part of me trusting my team to do that. But we highly encourage people to log off from Slack,
Mm.
to not check their emails after working hours.
Have you found that that has helped you and maybe your team, your company, um, become better at a lot of things that a lot of people struggle with right now in terms of creativity, clarity, motivation, just the ability to detach but still do more.
Yeah. So this is another creativity, especially when it comes to product, is my biggest kind of like superpower.
Mm,
And the more time I spend obsessing on how can we make our product better, whether it's digital, whether it's the formulation, whatever we offer to our customers, the better we do. And I strongly believe that to that's the ultimate goal is to have the most effective product to deliver to our customers.
mhm.
One of the best times for this kind of like creative thinking is in the shower. It's, I'm
It's
going
always the
through the
shower.
tasks
Yeah.
and so it's like I would monitor what do I think about in the shower. When I have my phone, I'm thinking about, this is my first meeting for the day, or shit, this broke overnight. This is something that I have to fix. And it's usually very short term. It's troubleshooting a problem that isn't that important. It's not a huge priority. But because I have that recency bias,
Mhm.
it's like I just woke up, I just saw this, I know I'm going to have to go in and deal with it. That's what I spent my time thinking about.
Mm.
When I don't have that, I'm starting to think a lot more long term. How can we do this new product and launch it? How can we build this new feature?
Yeah.
And that makes such a huge difference. And then when I come into work, I'm excited instead of being like, shit, I have to deal with this problem. I'm like, I can't wait to write this down, to scope this out. And I bring this other type of energy. And all of those small problems, they're not significant. Like it hasn't hurt us yet.
In your opinion right now, blanket statement, what do you think is one thing or a couple things that is stifling most people's motivation, clarity, energy, memory, focus, all the things that we are gravitating towards to optimize, right? And to become more efficient and to get better at multitasking or to set the right goal and put ourselves on the right path in pursuit of it. Is there one thing or a couple things that you think trickle down the most and have the largest negative effect on people's outlets for those things?
I think it really depends. I do regular kind of like time audits. What am I spending my time on? And just seeing, what are my priorities and my goals, and then where does my time actually
Hmm.
go? And
How do you measure that?
I sometimes I use tools so I
Okay.
can do like screen time. Sometimes I'll actually manually track like what am I actually doing. During some experiments, I'll actually go in and like I track everything. So when
Mm.
I'm testing nootropics and I'm really into the formulation process, I have spreadsheets and I'm like, how much did I drink? What did I eat? How do I feel?
Wow,
What
wow,
did
wow,
I
wow.
sleep? What's going on? Um, yeah. Um,
That's exciting personal data.
it is. And there's a lot of insights that come from that. I
Yeah.
think some of the simple things. So I talked about phones and just kind of like constantly switching between different
Mm.
notifications. For me, a lot of that was spending time on things at work that weren't important, but it's very easy for me to go through and
Like
fix a lot of.
what were some of those things that you realized you were spending a lot of time on but weren't that important?
I mean, there's everything. I'll go into Slack and see that, this customer service agent could have handled something better. And like, one of the things about being bootstrapped founder is I've done just about every job at the company. And
Mhm.
we have incredible people there. But sometimes I'll get in the weeds and I'm like, this should be done differently, or like our shipping times aren't what they should be. And I'll
Yeah.
I'll go off on all of these that it's not really a problem, and we already have people that are handling it, that I don't need to insert myself, and that's one of the biggest things that I'm spending time of kind of, like, stepping back.
Even though you know how to do it, doesn't always mean you should be the one to do it.
Exactly. And then, I have a fiancé, and so I get we live together, we've lived together for years, and I can kind of see how she spends her time.
Mm.
One of the things about me, I don't have a personal Instagram, I don't have TikTok on my phone. I see a lot of people spend so much time on those platforms. And again, there's nothing I don't think that there's anything inherently bad about it, and especially you can discover new hobbies, you can
Mhm.
learn about things. There's a lot of positive things that come from those platforms. But if you've ever sat back and just watched someone go through scrolling for an hour,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is yeah, I mean,
Mindless self-indulgence. truly.
I mean, it's just you see them going through this like dopamine cycle where it's like they just want that extra, like, what am I going to discover? What's going to give me that little boost?
Becoming harder and harder and harder to get that boost again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just so, and again, I'm saying just blanket. It's not for everyone, but for some people where you see this behavior where they're spending hours a day on it, um, it's really, really unhealthy in my view.
You mentioned it a couple of times, but I want to jump into one of the really key practical ways that you have found solace and help in energy, clarity, motivation, so many concepts that are so important for everybody, regardless whatever your task is or your goal is. And it's something that is no stranger to me that I've been using in my wellness routine for years and years in a variety of different ways, and that's nootropics. But what I love about what you all do at Thesis is that it's not just, hey, here's something that you might be familiar with, here's an ingredient, here's a blend that does what it says it's going to do. But in my experience and everybody's experience, because you got to go through the same process, is this awareness quiz, this kind of walk through. You got to sit down, you got to focus, you got to answer questions about where is my mind going? Where's my energy going? What matters most to me? And so I love that you all bring first and foremost the attention to the person, so that awareness is the first step in everything, right? But then after that, it's this ability to then get things that are going to directly support me and directly support the things that matter to me, and more specifically, the things that I'm really struggling with. Can you walk us through this concept of this brain quiz and how you are able to then give people things that work that are really curated for them?
Exactly. So the way I look at it, nootropics, the the problem that we're solving is finding the right ingredients for each individual. And when I discovered nootropics, it was more than 10 years ago now. I was studying for the GMAT. It was something that I needed to get a really high score on in order to accomplish my goals. So I was desperate. I was willing to try just about anything. I heard of nootropics on a study forum and I went out and I bought every single thing that I could find. And I meticulously cycled through, formulations, different single blends. I would go into a coffee shop and just bring out a milligram scale and a bunch of white powders and was like weighing everything out. And most nootropics didn't do anything.
Hmm.
So no measurable impact. But I didn't give up. And I went for months. I spent thousands of dollars. And eventually I found some ingredients that worked really well. And I created a formula that was life changing for me.
Hmm.
So when I went in to take the GMAT, I ended up scoring in the 99th percentile,
Ooh,
which was surprised the hell out of me, well beyond what
wow.
I thought I was capable of. Essentially, what Thesis does is it takes that, 6-month long, thousands of dollars process and it compresses it into less than a month for less than $100. And that's a data science problem. So we have users go through a quiz and then we compare their results to our customer base. At this point, we have millions of people who have gone through the quiz, hundreds of thousands of reviews. And we take this data and we say, where should you start? It's not accurate enough that I can say after a 3-minute quiz, this is going to work for you.
Right.
Hopefully one day it keeps improving. But right now we say, these are the 4 formulations that you should start with. Try each one for a week. Tell us, which ones are most effective for you, which ones you didn't like. And then we use your data to customize your box for the next month. And, what I saw in the industry, there are a lot of people like me that come to nootropics, but they just give up. So they'll try one product, one ingredient, and they'll say, oh, it didn't achieve my goals. Nootropics are bullshit. Fuck this. And they just stop. We essentially are on the journey with a customer. We're going through the process with them. If they have a negative experience, they can call us. They can talk to a coach. We're there guiding them to get the best results. And not everybody is going to get incredible results, but the majority of people who try our products, we get them there.
I also want to bring to mind for the listener an important part of really anything that you set your mind to, that's kind well, I kind of just said it. You have to set your mind to it. You can be taking a supplement, you can change your diet, you can do a lot of different things and your inputs, quite literally what you're putting into your body, and even, like nootropics cross the blood brain barrier. I believe there has to be a level of matched intention to that task, because if you just take something, it might work in the sense of biochemically, it's going to do what it says it's going to do. But if you're not focused, if you're not choosing to be present in the matter at hand, then I feel like you're really just kind of you're swinging, and you might hit a couple balls, but versus stepping up to the plate and being laser focused on the task, on the ball coming down your lane, how many more direct hits are you going to get?
So I'll say it in a slightly different way. For me, I needed both nootropics and behavioral interventions. I couldn't have one without the other to get kind of like the dramatic results. And it's the same thing even with, you know, I was also prescribed prescription stimulants.
Mm,
Like there's no magic pill that I think fixes issues with focus for me. I needed to develop healthy habits. What I'll say that's a little bit different from how you framed it, I don't think it's a motivation issue.
mm,
So going back to when I was sitting there and my sister's just going there and studying for hours, I was so fucking motivated. I wanted more than anything not to be like this, and I just couldn't do it. I needed some type of pharmacological help because my brain
I see.
structure and my
Yeah.
neurotransmitters are different from my sister's.
Hmm.
And that's okay. And once I got that, it unlocked this ability in me. And for some people that's medication, for some people that's nootropics, for some people it can come with like meditation and different types of exercise.
Mm,
I think to really, really get good results, you need a
yeah.
mixture. And then you get this. What happened for me, this started 10 years ago. I got this flywheel going. And nootropics was kind of like that cornerstone habit that started the flywheel and gave me some
Yeah.
momentum so that I could get a healthy diet and start going to the gym and start meditating and all of these things that I could layer on top.
Walk us through if you can. We haven't really actually defined nootropics. For any listener of my show that's been with me for a few years, they've definitely heard me talk about them here and there. But for the person that's new to nootropics, what are they? How do they work? And what's so special about them?
So I'll give a really simple definition. Neurons communicate with neurotransmitters. That's how they'll communicate to the next neuron across a synapse. These are things most people know the names of, you know, dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, GABA. And there's a lot of things that you can do to modulate the levels of neurotransmitters in the synapse.
Mm,
Just about everything you think and feel has comes from this chemical interaction. What nootropics are at the core are ingredients that will directly impact and modulate the levels of neurotransmitters in the synapse. So that could be everything from precursor ingredients. So actually,
mm.
what are those neurotransmitters made up of? Amino acids, things like that. It can be, reuptake inhibitors. There's a lot of different things that you can do, and it's incredible that we're at the point that we have discovered ingredients that can do this.
What about the safety of some of these items? You're talking about crossing the blood-brain barrier. You're talking about our brains and how we think and feel and operate. Are there any safety concerns in general? Are these things how well studied are they?
So the definition I gave you encompasses everything from prescription medications. It has nothing to do. I look at nootropics as this blanket term
Mm,
of an ingredient that can impact the levels of neurotransmitters. Getting down to kind of like what Thesis as a company sells, we we're in the US, we manufacture everything here. We have third-party lab testing. There are some there are many nootropics companies that don't have the same safety protocols. So I think it really does depend where are you purchasing these things and
sure, sure.
understanding kind of like the risk level.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I want to pick your brain on one of my favorites that has been one of my just like absolute favorite applications to, I'd say, my daily wellness routine, but especially when I need to get locked on a task, when I want to get locked onto a task, but just not just get so fixated in tunnel vision, but just be present, but allow what needs to happen. And that's clarity. The light blue packet, clarity for me has just been a game changer. Can you walk us through what's in that and why do I why do I feel the way that I do? Why do I love it?
So I love clarity. I take clarity most days. Today I actually took confidence. I always take
Another good one.
confidence.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So confidence is aimed towards serotonin and GABA.
Mm,
Makes me more pro-social. I still get a little bit of performance anxiety when I come on to podcasts. This really helps calm my nerves and
mm,
helps with verbal fluency. Clarity is my go-to when I'm in the office and I just need to sit and do deep work.
mhm.
It has several incredible ingredients. So one that I'm really excited about is 7,8 dihydroxyflavone. It's a flavonoid that crosses the blood-brain barrier and behaves very similar to BDNF.
Brain derived nootropic factor for anybody that
Exactly.
doesn't know.
And so it mimics the effects in a lot of ways. We have lion's mane, but we don't just have
Ah,
any lion's mane. We have 500 milligrams of
that's why I love it so much.
yeah.
Lion's mane is it's fire.
And so this is what I'm talking about. Like lion's mane, there's several active ingredients. We select there's tons of lion's mane on the market. It seems like almost everything you can get coffees,
Yeah,
teas,
yeah.
shakes, all of this stuff. But it really matters how much of the active ingredients are in there. And we went on the market and we tested. I can't even count how many suppliers to select the ones with the right genetics, the right methods of harvesting to have the highest percentage of active ingredients.
Of what you all offer right now, what do you think most people are what should most people gravitate towards? What do you think is maybe that sensation, that goal that you see most people struggling with right now that one of these items from Thesis could really probably help?
So again, this is one of the things where I'm hesitant to talk about individual formulas
Mm,
because clarity works great for you. It
yeah.
works great for me. Somebody else will buy clarity and it doesn't work for them.
Mm.
And I don't want them to think that they just give up. It's the same thing.
That's why they go through the quiz.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm trying to think of a parallel. Like if I love the keto diet,
Mm,
I'll do it, 3 months a year and it's great for me.
mm.
I know a lot of people they just have such horrible responses to it. So it would be like if I say personally I love the keto diet and then somebody else tries it and they're like fuck this, it didn't work. I'm never going to diet ever again. All I want to do is like
That was
y-
me with keto for sure.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so like our bodies respond differently. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. If somebody tries clarity and it's not a good fit for them, that's perfectly fine. The whole goal of our company is we have
Mm.
ingredients that will work. One of the things that we found, I don't know if you're familiar with our second product line, Stasis.
I am now, thanks to you. I'm in week 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Stasis, we saw that there were people taking stimulants that were purchasing
Mm.
Thesis. And stimulants can be anything from caffeine, nicotine. These are stimulants that caffeine, the majority of people in the US are taking caffeine every day.
Most are, yeah.
To everything to prescription stimulants like Adderall, Vyvanse, methylphenidate.
Mm.
They primarily work by increasing levels of dopamine and norepinephrine. Unfortunately, they also increase levels of oxidative stress and cortisol in most people.
There's a debt to pay. There's a toll to pay with these. Usually,
Exactly.
yeah.
And, that shows up for some people with crash, jitters, trouble sleeping. I'm somebody, I was taking stimulants for years and it got to the point where I just couldn't take them. I'm very fortunate that I respond great to nootropics and they've been able to get me everything that I need with none of the
Mm.
downsides. For some people, they need to take stimulants and there's nothing wrong with that. There shouldn't be any shame or stigma to
Mm.
it. We created a product that's specifically designed to be taken alongside stimulants to fight oxidative
Mm.
stress, to modulate levels of cortisol, and allow people to break through the downsides
Yeah.
of crash, trouble sleeping, and jitters.
And that's just where I love we're at, in society and in the world, and what I see Thesis doing in terms of product development and Stasis now as well is just we have so much at our fingertips, natural resources that we can put together in unique formulations and go through a brief questionnaire to just get our minds and our consciousness and our levels of awareness to a point of going, okay, this is where I'm at, this is where I want to be, and these are ways that I can get there. These are things that have indisputable benefits to the body. And in most cases, a lot of these ingredients, all the research that I've done are so safe and so well studied and are things that our ancestors have been using, adaptogens, functional mushrooms, roots, things like that, that just, all we need to do is just look back in time. And now we got time and science and awareness, put all that together. That is a magical formula for motivation, clarity, confidence, energy, all those things. Kind of getting towards the end here, I want to ask one question before the final. What awaits us on the other side of motivation, energy, clarity? What awaits us on the other side of nootropics? Can you kind of paint that picture of achieving more, of maybe being more confident or comfortable in your skin, or just having the ability to take a deep breath after a long day and just knowing that you did your best and you're going to do it all again tomorrow?
That's a really good question. For me, I am constantly challenging myself. And, you know, being a founder, I signed up for my life is solving problems. It's constantly
Mm.
issues coming up. And if things get to me now, that means that a lot of other people have tried to solve it and then it gets escalated to me because nobody's been able to. What's really interesting and rewarding is the complexity of the challenges that I have are so much more. I When I think of 7 years ago when I started the company, it was a lot of technical in the weeds executing, and I had to learn those. I had to overcome those.
Mm.
To then it's like people management, and then it's, not just me managing one person, it's me managing somebody who's managing somebody who's managing somebody, and the I love challenges. Not always,
I
like,
can see it happening right now. I can see your brain
yeah,
turning, and yeah,
but it's like the people who I get to spend my
yeah.
time with are incredible. I'm so fortunate. Like with the team that I get to work with
Mm.
now, I've never worked with people so talented, so motivated. They're just kind of like compelled and drawn to the company, and our board, our advisors, and the things that I get to work on. They're not always fun, but I feel that each time I get this, next level, and through healthy habits and motivation and all of these things, it's just bigger and better, and it gives me even more energy, and I'm so grateful that I'm here.
I want the listener to really pick up on that, the complexity of the challenge. That is the mindset that we're after here. Thank you for that answer. I really felt that that was a very present answer. I could see you mulling it over. I could see you kind of just, I'm sure, kind of maybe flashbacking to some situations, and that renegotiation, that reestablishment of a relationship to issues that before we're at rock bottom kept us there. But once you kind of appreciate the complexity of the challenge, you kind of only begin to see solutions, right?
Yeah, and the one thing, you know, as I was just looking back, I wouldn't there's no shortcut. So if I didn't solve those in the weeds challenges, then the company wouldn't have grown, and then I wouldn't also have the skills to deal with these challenges. So
Mm-hmm.
7 years ago, I couldn't the things that are on my plate now, there's no way that I had the skills, the tools to
Yeah.
actually overcome it. And so it's just constantly like, how do I learn more? How do I grow
Mm.
so that I get, in 6 months when who knows what's going to come at me, I'm capable of
Mm.
doing it. And that's such a huge gift.
I couldn't think of a better way to go into my last question. And you had a little preview here from my man Kenny, but ever forward. Those two words, what do they mean to you? How do you, Dan, live a life ever forward?
So I told you I've started back at square one several times,
Mm,
and it doesn't always feel like I'm moving forward. I was a chef at the top of my career at 25, and then my career went off a cliff. And then I started all over from when I switched from being a chef into going to business school when I was 28, and everything. It was just like being the top of my field and somebody highly respected, to being at the bottom, somebody who didn't even graduate high school in a master's degree program and trying to start over. The thing that I see that was always I was always learning and growing. And even when I failed, and even when on the outside it looked like I took a step back,
mm,
or I was starting from, you know, nothing, I had gained tools, skills, experience that were so valuable. I might not have appreciated it at the time, but looking back now, there's no way, like, things are constantly coming up. And I see this, one of the incredible things that I get to do now is mentor people.
mhm.
Um, and to see people going through that journey and to share some of my experience, and it makes it click so much more now when I see other people going through it, that I remember at that time what it felt like, and I didn't think I was moving forward. I
Mm,
saw it
mm.
as a huge step back, but in retrospect, that was necessary. That was a step forward. I just couldn't see it.
Sometimes we are succeeding so slowly, it feels like failure, right? And it kind of takes these moments of reflection to have to really look back at the past in appreciation, to go, the suffering was necessary, the uncertainty was necessary, so that I can have understanding about it now, but create wisdom for the future.
Exactly.
Dan, well, I know I could talk about Thesis all day long. What you all are doing there have, like I said, not only been just a huge value add to my daily wellness, but just so specific to certain tasks. I love that you all have products that almost almost kind of take the thinking out of what I want, because like, oh, like that's the word that I'm after. That's the feeling. That's the end result that I'm chasing. And I think that I know that it helps me, and I firmly believe it can help a lot of other people as well. And I love that you guys have created products that start with kind of that end result, that end feeling in mind. Because for me, I'm chasing results, but I'm also chasing feelings along the way. I want to know that what I'm doing is tied to a positive feeling, or I know that I can get there. Feeling good about what I'm doing versus just knowing that I'm doing is way more important. And you all definitely helped me with that. So thank you.
Exactly. I love hearing that. One
Yeah.
of the Again, I during the darkest periods in the company, I go through customer testimonials,
Mm,
and I just know that I'm on the right path,
mm.
knowing that our product has meaningfully changed so many people's lives is so deeply rewarding.
And also, quick little hack: you all have caffeinated and decaffeinated versions. And the first time that I tried Thesis, it had caffeine in it. And I'm a guy that really I monitor my caffeine levels in terms of dosage and timing. And there's this hack for anybody out there listening or watching. If you get the one, it's the little white pill. Is the extra, usually fourth pill, is the caffeine pill. Throw that baby out if you already hit your quota for the day. That's a little quick little hack that I realized.
Yeah, we make it really easy to adjust.
Yeah,
Um, I love the taste of coffee. And
exactly.
so
Same.
sometimes I'll have a bunch of coffee in the morning just because
Yeah.
I'm so used to it. And then I will take it without caffeine.
Clarity, clarity with also, excuse me, clarity or motivation with a cup of coffee, I'm unstoppable. It's a game changer for me. Yeah. Well, Dan, where can my audience go to learn more about you and Thesis? We're going to have, of course, all this link down in the show notes, but where can they go to connect with you guys and learn more?
Takethesis.com is our main site for personalized nootropics. And then we have a separate site,
Mm.
takestasis.com, for anybody who's taking stimulants and wants to help balance them out. And then we'll give your listeners a discount code.
Oh, amazing. Okay. Thank you.
What would you prefer as the code?
Ever Forward works for the
Everforward.
audience. Yeah.
So we'll do Everforward for a discount for all of your listeners.
All right. And guys, seriously, you have heard me talk about a lot of different things over the years, but when I take Thesis, I'm on point. And I love the ability to like choose my own destiny, choose my own path. So do yourself a favor, take the brain quiz, check them out, give it a whirl. Your future self is going to thank you. All right, Dan and I thank you.
Thank you.